Welcome back. Today we're going to look at drawing different types of flowers. So different ways of drawing traditional flowers, but making them look really cool and a bit like mandala types and tangle type drawing. So let's go and get started. Let's start with this kind of flower here. It's quite nice and simple. Okay, so I do a circle to start. Then I will do these shapes like you would if you were to draw a simple flower. Then you go over it for the next layer and you do the same, going in between the gaps. Once the gap gets quite wide, you can actually go in between and then in half. And then after I've done that, I will go back to doing it in between, a bit like if you were drawing bricks, layering them across each other rather than directly on top. And you can keep going and going with this as wide as you want it to go. Once again, when it gets wide like that, you can make them wide or you can do the two to fill in. And then back to layering them. Now you keep going and going wider and wider until it's as big as you like. They're really cool to be able to make lots of different sizes, or you can fill up your whole page with them if you like. Then it's up to you what you want to do when you're done with that. Whether or not you want to leave them just like that, whether you want to add any leaves around them or anything to fill it. For example, sometimes I like to just do a single line inside it, which can look quite nice and quite easy to do. So then you just will go through and then fill them in until you have done all of them. So sometimes I like to leave them blank, sometimes I will fill them in. So usually with flowers like this, I like to end with a leaf around the outside. I tend to do two different sizes. So I will do one, for example, and curve it, and I will often do one kind of layered to the side, a bit smaller. And they're just really simple leaves with literally just the diagonal line patterns on each side. And it just makes your flower, the finishing part of your flower, just really nice. So there's one kind. Another kind that you can do is quite similar to this. We just make them a bit more square shaped. So, for example, I do my circle to start. So see here, it's going to be the same idea, just instead of them being rounded, they're a bit more square shaped. But once again, I go in the gaps, layering them, and I do the same thing when it starts to get too big, is I can do two. And then I can go back to layering them again. The same thing goes. You can choose to leave them blank. You can do line, or you can do a few lines, which also looks quite nice. And once again, you can add a flower or a leaf or something to it as well. Next up, we have got one that's a bit of a combination of the two. Starting with my inside circle, I kind of go out and in like that. Once again, I layer them. It's okay if they're not exactly between each other, because when you fill it out, you won't notice. And often for this one, what I would do is I will also do a line in there at the end as well. And once again, I do these ones in between. You can choose however you want to do that. And then I also, again, I finish with the flower, with the leaf, often doing two, one bigger, one smaller. Three different kinds of flowers. I am just going to show you a couple more before we stop today. The next one is going to be a little bit longer, so a bit more of a traditional flower. So here, what I'll often do is I will fill in here, either colour it or I will just do the loop. Then I'll often do that same kind of thing where I layer it. And keep going around and around until it's as big as I want it to be. And then do the same, either just leave them like this, just open, or fill them. Lots of different ways you can do it, and you can choose how. You can do the same kind of thing with the pointed type shape. Once again, quite traditional. For these ones, I often just do one line in the middle, but I do it again and I go through the gaps. Usually I will go a bit slower, take my time, so it's not quite so messy, but you still get the idea. I will keep going through the gaps until it's as big as I want it to be. So there you go. There are a few different ways that you can draw and make flowers. It looks really cool when you mix and match them together. And when you just add in a simple finish like these leaves here, it just brings it all together really nicely. I had a great time drawing with you. Next week we will continue part 2 for drawing the different kinds of flowers, and I hope to see you again soon.